Let's talk about the Indianapolis Colts because they went out there and they have made some moves in free agency. Before I get into the defense and the brand new defensive coordinator, I really want to start off with Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. They signed Daniel Jones to a 1-year contract, $14 million. I call him Danny Pennies. He's definitely not making pennies with the Indianapolis Colts, and he did not make pennies with the New York Giants. They're bringing in Daniel Jones not to be the starter, but for him to go out there and to compete with Anthony Richardson. So it's a good chance that Anthony Richardson will open up the brand new season next year as a starting quarterback with the Colts. But if he cannot bring it together, they may turn to Daniel Jones to being their starting option. It has been hell for the Indianapolis Colts since Andrew Luck has retired. When I look at this list, you have Jacoby Brissett. Now, they pushed him out there. He was not ready to be a starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. They really built this team and the system around Andrew Luck, but he retired right before the season started because he was tired of dealing with the injuries. And I don't blame him, but I wish he would have retired sooner. He pushed this organization into a bad spot. So you go out there with Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett was not going to be your franchise guy. You made the NFL playoffs with Phillip Rivers. That was somewhat being successful with him and Frank Reich. Carson Wentz, you go to him. He had a winning record with the Indianapolis Colts, but they missed the NFL playoffs. Terrible coaching by Frank Reich, and Carson Wentz had a bad game to end out the season. You bring in Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan was terrible. I don't know why on earth they thought that Matt Ryan at the time was going to come over and be a guy that they could rely on for the next 2 to 3 years. He was terrible. That last season with the Atlanta Falcons, he was solid, but you're bringing in yet another aging quarterback. You drafted Sam Elger. You let him play a couple games. He was not ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. He was a developmental project. You had Nick Foles come in and start a couple of games for you. You select Anthony Richardson in the first round. More on that in the next couple of minutes. Gardner Minshew had to come in for Anthony Richardson because Anthony Richardson missed majority of his rookie season. They wanted Anthony Richardson to be the starting quarterback. I don't know why they rushed him into that spot. Gardner Minshew is a veteran. Gardner Minshew had some solid moments with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gardner Minshew actually played better than Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson from this previous season with the Colts a year ago. When we go back and look at what he did a year ago with the Indianapolis Colts, they were 1 game away from making the NFL playoffs. It came down to the running back dropping the football. If he catches that football and they beat the Houston Texans, they make the NFL playoffs with Gardner Minshew. And we're talking about Shane Steichen potentially being a Coach of the Year candidate because no one expected the Indianapolis Colts to be in that situation. You're going against a rookie CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. I understand that. But that was not a terrible season for the Indianapolis Colts. Then you let Gardner Minshew walk. He goes over to the Las Vegas Raiders. He's going to be cut within the next 48 hours as I record this video. You bring in Joe Flacco, who just had a successful season with the Cleveland Browns, got them to the NFL playoffs. He would be the backup to Anthony Richardson. Now, this will all carry over to Anthony Richardson right now in this conversation. I'm done with the list. Anthony Richardson, his first 2 years in the NFL, they have not been good. He just had 8 passing touchdowns to 12 interceptions this previous season. Over the last 2 years, 11 passing touchdowns to 13 interceptions, and he has dealt with injuries. He has missed a lot of time, shoulder injury, concussion. His hip gave out against the Steelers. There's a major problem here with Anthony Richardson. He plays the NFL game like he's playing in college. You can't do that. He has to find a way to not be so reckless. And it's a tough situation on Shane Steichen, but he was in favor of drafting him because part of the reason to why he wanted Anthony Richardson to be his quarterback, he's the former offensive coordinator with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's the Eagles team that went to the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs. That's when they lost against the Chiefs. He helped Jalen Hurts be a top quarterback in the NFL with his play calling, the RPO system, the using the motion, finding ways to beat the blitz. That is what Shane Steichen did. And you look at Jalen Hurts, you look at Anthony Richardson. Body types are similar, but Jalen Hurts is a more polished passer. And Jalen Hurts, to me, is not a top 5 passer in the NFL. But he is a very good quarterback. He can push the ball down the field. He can make some nice throws. Anthony Richardson cannot do that. We also have to go back to college. Jalen Hurts was coached up by Nick Saban. He was not known for his arm. He was not known for going out there and being the most accurate quarterback. They benched him for Tua. He goes over to Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley coached him up. Lincoln Riley coached up Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, back-to-back Heisman winners. So you have Jalen Hurts. He comes out of college. He's a better passer with Oklahoma than he was with Alabama. You look at Anthony Richardson. You look at his numbers, passing-wise, coming out of college. He was not a good passer. When I look at that last season, this was the only season to where he was fully starting. 17 passing touchdowns and 9 interceptions. That's not going to get it done. He did have 656 rushing yards and 9 rushing touchdowns. But his collegiate numbers for all years in college, 24 passing touchdowns to 15 interceptions. That does not scream franchise quarterback. What does scream franchise quarterback, apparently to this coaching staff and to this general manager, is the fact that he's 6'5", 250 pounds. That does not always translate over to the NFL. The fact that he has that size and that mobility is also hurting him. It's a blessing and it's a curse. He feels like he can go out there and he can still run over defenders like how he did at the college level. He was trucking linebackers, pushing cornerbacks and safeties out of his way. When you come over to the NFL, a lot of rookie quarterbacks, they'll come out and say it seems like every player is good. At the college level, and I mean this in the most respectful way, you may come across a kid that's a 2 or a 3-star recruit. He doesn't need to be on the field at that point in time, but maybe he's just subbing in. So you're going to be going against a lot of weaker competition at the college level. The NFL level, you're facing Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby. You're not going to run away from them every single time. You're not going to go out there and stiff arm a defensive tackle in the face like an Aaron Donald, a Cameron Hayward, a Chris Jones. They're going to put pressure on you. And at the NFL level, I know that a lot of people say it's not as physical as it used to be. Football will forever be a physical sport. They're going to hit you if you are in open space, and they should. You're an open runner. Anthony Richardson has to learn when to slide. Anthony Richardson has to learn when to run out of bounds. He has to learn when can I scramble out of this situation. Now, the Indianapolis Colts, the wide receivers, they have dealt with a lot of drops. Let's not shy away from it. But let's not also act like Anthony Richardson was placed into a horrible situation. The organization over the last decade plus has not been the best with the Indianapolis Colts because they have not had the quarterback position right. And I'm not the biggest fan of Chris Ballard, but there's talent on this Colts roster. You have a very good running back in Jonathan Taylor. You have a true number 1 in Michael Pittman Jr. Alec Pierce just had a very good season this year. And you have solid pieces on the offensive line with Quentin Nelson. So when I look at the situation that Anthony Richardson was placed into, you at least should be able to go out there and at least have 12 to 15 passing touchdowns at the least and be able to run around and pick up your numbers. But he can't even do that because he is not accustomed to playing the quarterback position from inside the pocket. He is not a good passer. The accuracy is not there. The completion percentage is one of the worst in the NFL. And that's even if you take away the drops with the Indianapolis Colts. He can't hit wide receivers in their stride on a consistent basis. He'll have a couple of throws that make you just say, hey, he can be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And then the next thing you know, he's throwing the football in triple coverage and it goes for an interception. He has to be more consistent with the decision making, and he has to be better with that accuracy. It's that simple. Even with Jalen Hurts, he is known for his legs. He's known for moving around, but he made a lot of plays from inside the pocket, and he's been to the playoffs numerous times. Jalen Hurts is a very good quarterback. I feel like he's underrated. So to compare Anthony Richardson to him is a slap in the face to Jalen Hurts. And you can make the case that he has a better team around him. He does. But the point I'm trying to make here is that the Indianapolis Colts, they have key players at key positions. It's time for Anthony Richardson to step up. And you can't be tapping out of the game because you're too tired. And I know that he thought it was a funny thing to say, and he was just being honest with the media. You can't say that. You even had his own offensive linemen. They were upset with him. That's why they benched him. And he took the benching very well. He seems like a nice kid to be around. He seems like a leader. He just has to go out there and focus on the game. And I'll move away from the rap scene. I know that he likes to rap. He likes to produce music. Focus on the game. When you play better, you can go back to the rap music. You can produce that. I don't have a problem with players having an outside life. But it's bad, and you know what the national media is going to do. They're going to come on here. They're going to come on your neck, and they're basically going to say this. They're going to basically kick you on your neck over and over again because of this reason. They're going to say that he's too focused on outside ventures instead of focusing on the game. We see it every single year. A quarterback may go out there, he may spend time with a family member, he may be on vacation. They'll say if he wasn't on vacation all the time, he needs to focus on his game. It's just low-hanging fruit. But he does need to work on his accuracy. His rookie season, and even the offseason, was just terrible. He couldn't even fully work out in the offseason because he had arm soreness from the surgery that he just had many months ago. So this will be the first full offseason for Anthony Richardson. Work on that accuracy. Talk with some teammates. Go out there and get some extra work in. Call up Jalen Hurts. Call up Cam Newton. Do whatever you can. Work on that accuracy and be a better quarterback, because I want to see Anthony Richardson be a superstar. With the athletic ability that he has and that arm power, he has potential to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but potential can only get you so far. But right now, he's not a good starting option for the Colts. I feel like this. I feel like they have basically botched this entire situation. You started him too soon. You should have just started Gardner Minshew for his full rookie season and then ease him into the game plan in year number 2. He wouldn't have dealt with those injuries. He could have learned from a veteran quarterback in Gardner Minshew. That's what they should have did. Shane Steichen was very impatient, and the same with Chris Ballard. They're trying to save their jobs. But if this doesn't work out, they're going to get fired regardless, especially Chris Ballard, because I'm going to tell you this. You haven't won this division in over a decade. The Jacksonville Jaguars have won this division. They've won this division with Blake Bortles. Granted, they had a great defense with Jalen Ramsey and the pieces that you had around him. But if they can win the division with Blake Bortles, there is no reason to why the Indianapolis Colts cannot go out there and win the division at least once in the last decade. The Houston Texans have won this division in the last 2 years, and one of those seasons was with a rookie CJ. And the Texans have went through an entire rebuild over the last decade. Remember, they had Deshaun Watson. After they traded him, 2 to 3 years after that, they were completely terrible. Let's not forget the Houston Texans. They fired David Culley. They went out there and they fired Lovie Smith. A lot of people in the national media were looking at the Houston Texans sideways, and they're saying, hey, what's going on with this organization? They're trying to get down to right coaching. And they have still found a way to go out there and win this division. And you had the Tennessee Titans. They won this division. They had Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill. That's a bad look on the general manager. When all the other general managers in this division and even new general managers come in and they can orchestrate a team that can win the division, but you can't. They should have fired Chris Ballard a long time ago. I am not a big fan of Chris Ballard because I was not a fan of them bringing over Frank Reich. But when I look at the Daniel Jones situation for a second, the best bet for the Colts is for Anthony Richardson to be your guy. Because if you're depending on Daniel Jones to be your quarterback and to save you for a season or two, you're going to be in trouble. Now, this is the best team that Daniel Jones has been with on the active roster. He was on the practice squad with the Minnesota Vikings. He was never called up to be a starting quarterback. They had Sam Darnold. They had J.J. McCarthy, but J.J. McCarthy was out his entire rookie season. So on an active roster standpoint, Daniel Jones, this is the best situation that he may ever be in. As a backup guy playing with Michael Pittman Jr., playing with Alec Pierce. Can he come in and be a better quarterback than Anthony Richardson straight off the bat? I do believe so, because he's a better passer than Anthony Richardson. But you have a backup quarterback that has suffered a neck injury that has affected his throw power down the field. He can't throw the football consistently 30, 40 yards down the field. He missed Malik Neighbors a lot this previous year. The athleticism is there with Daniel Jones. He's a sneaky athlete. When you look at Daniel Jones, you know what he is. He was never a franchise quarterback with the New York Giants. They never put him into a good situation. Yes, they made the NFL playoffs a few years ago. That's why he got that big contract with the Giants. But look at what they had to do. They had to use his legs with Saquon. This is a quarterback. He fits the system with Shane Steichen because he has athleticism. But if Anthony Richardson can't catch on, this will be a complete disaster with the Indianapolis Colts. And it's more than just their offense that let them down last year in terms of quarterback play. This defense was atrocious, especially against the run. Now, you fire Gus Bradley, you bring over Coach Lou, and I was waiting to make this video during free agency so I could talk about this. When they fired Gus Bradley, I love that move. Shout out to Shane Steichen. I don't want to see anyone lose their jobs. But Gus Bradley was just terrible. So you bring over Coach Lou. I'm not a huge fan of Coach Lou. The Cincinnati Bengals defense last season was terrible. And he was a defensive play caller. Now, the players, they weren't the best. We've seen Coach Lou go out there and have good moments in the past with the Bengals defense, especially against Patrick Mahomes. He is known for being a secondary first coach. Now, the pieces that you brought in, you bring in Charvarius Ward from the San Francisco 49ers. He's a true number one cornerback, one of the better cornerbacks that you can have. You now have him. You have Jalen Jones at the other cornerback position with Juju Brents. Juju Brents, back-to-back years, hasn't been able to stay fully healthy. When he's been on the field, he's been solid. There's something there for him. Cameron Bynum, you bring him over from the Minnesota Vikings, a very good safety, and he's a playmaking safety at that. 3 interceptions, 10 pass deflections, and he can tackle in space, 54 solo tackles. I like the rotation that they have at the pass rushing position with Kwity Paye. Kwity Paye is a very good player. 8 sacks on the year, 1 forced fumble. DeForest Buckner missed some time this year, but 6.5 sacks. He's one of the better defensive tackles that you can have in terms of stopping the run and putting pressure on the opposing quarterback. And you have Grover Stewart, 3.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. You also drafted Latu. His rookie season, he was solid. 3 forced fumbles, 4 sacks. I expect for him to up that sack number next season. But you have a good rotation. And don't forget this, Samson Ebukam, he's coming back. Had 9.5 sacks 2 years ago. He missed all of this previous season because he tore his Achilles in training camp. The defense already looks better on paper. And Zaire Franklin, he's a tackle machine. And you have EJ Speed. So what the Indianapolis Colts have right now is a solid defense on paper. Coach Lou just has to be a better defensive play caller than Gus Bradley, and they have to stop the run. But I look at the Colts, man. You can't have the games that you had last season. You lost against the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers ran the football majority of the time, and they put a lot of pressure on Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson has to learn how to play the quarterback position better. I wish they would have set him down for a year or two, but now you put the genie out the bottle. You can't put him back in. Because if you do come out and you say that Daniel Jones is our guy, he's going to open up the season, that may hurt the confidence with Anthony Richardson. And you're not going to trade Anthony Richardson either. It is so fun for a lot of scouts and people in the national media to come out, and myself included, and say, hey, the potential is there. If he can be a franchise guy one day, so take him in the first round. Now, I don't like developmental quarterbacks because it's hard as hell to develop them. But it's easy to come out and say that. It's another thing if you are a fan of this team. It's easy for me to come on here and say, be patient, Indianapolis Colts fans. They have been patient since Andrew Luck. Hell, they were patient with Andrew Luck. They had some playoff success with Andrew Luck, but he was getting beat to death because the offensive line was completely terrible. This is not a good situation for the Colts at the quarterback position. But they are bringing in some more defensive pieces. I like their defense. I like the players that they have with Michael Pittman Jr., also with Alec Pierce and Josh Downs. I don't know the status with A.D. Mitchell. A.D. Mitchell seems like a rotational wide receiver, did not have a good productive rookie season, but the potential is still there. You can give him more time. And before you come into the comment section and say, hey, why are you willing to give him more time over Anthony Richardson? For one, Anthony Richardson plays the quarterback position. Number 2, just in case you want to make that argument, he has players in front of him. He struggled his first year. He may be better off in his second year. And if he can't catch on in year number 2 or year number 3, you can move off of him. It took some time for Alec Pierce to catch on. But once again, these wide receivers are put into a tough spot to go out there and make big time plays because the quarterback position is not up to par. But let me know in the comment section below how you feel about the Indianapolis Colts, and can Anthony Richardson be their guy long term? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.